Mr. Beast. Never heard of him? Jimmy is a YouTuber who makes really large spectacle content. He flashes dollar signs and giant expo marker font all over the dang screen, and the kids eat it up. So many kids. Over the years, one of the major things that he's become known for is competitions, from small scale stuff all the way up to multi-million-dollar projects. And because of that, a little company called Amazon, never heard of, decided they wanted to let Jimmy make his very own competition reality show on their Prime Video network. Surprisingly, from what I've found, he was given virtually an unlimited budget to do so. Just for clarity, no show has a truly unlimited budget. The number I keep seeing floated around for this show is $100 million. And Jimmy himself on the show said,
in case you're wondering, yes, this show is way over budget.
So if you're going over $100 million budget, do you really have a budget? Going forward, every time I refer to their budget as unlimited, that's what I mean. Okay, let's keep going. Now, since the show's creation, there have been a ton of controversies. Stories have come out about conditions on set being awful. Unethical stuff left and right, lawsuits have been filed, folks. And because of this, everybody with a camera and an internet connection jumped on the bandwagon to make videos about this show. Beast Games is psychotic. Beast Games is a dystopian hellscape. Beast Games is the most unhinged show of the century, they said.
I got pregnant at Beast Games.
All right then. But I am not here to uncover all of that. No, my expertise lies somewhere else. I have watched a ton of competition shows over the years. It's kind of one of my things. So I would like to look at this show from a different angle. One that it seems like nobody else is really looking at it from. Is Beast Games even a good competition show? Controversies be darned. Is it worth watching? Everyone was foaming at the mouth to give their opinions on this show before any of the episodes had even come out. Well, strugglers, every episode has been released now. I sat down, I watched every bit of it. I took on that burden. And boy, oh boy, do I have thoughts. So this show was heavily marketed as being the biggest and most expensive game show ever created.
This show is bigger than anything you could ever imagine. You will see the most insane, psychological, emotional, and expensive games in the history of entertainment.
They really wanted people to know that this was the largest cash prize ever given out in TV history.
The largest grand prize in entertainment history.
They started with 1,000 contestants. Wow! The most in TV history.
A record-breaking number of 1,000 players.
They're continuously filming with a record-breaking number of cameras at any given time. The most in TV history, no doubt.
We set a world record for most cameras.
And what did all of these record-breaking feats give us? Was it the most jaw-dropping thing ever seen? The most mind-shattering show ever created? Something that will be remembered fondly for generations to come? No, what we got was a show that spent the majority of its runtime simply asking contestants to leave. Let me explain. Before the real show on Amazon with 1,000 contestants even started, they actually had a qualifying day where they brought in 2,000 contestants, and that was on Jimmy's YouTube channel. By the end of that, half of them would be sent home, and the top 1,000 would compete on the Prime show for the largest cash prize in history, lest we forget. In that video on the Mr. Beast YouTube channel, there were 4 total challenges. One of them, everybody splits into teams, and they lift a big boulder to the top of this thing, and the last team to do that gets eliminated. Then they played a brain game where the contestants would memorize a pattern and then go rush to a case and hopefully not select a case that had an elimination card in it. And then they lined everybody up and had them race towards these flags that were kind of randomly spread out in this field. And that lasted for a bunch of rounds, and the top 1,100 people would then go to the final game of the day. So far you might be thinking, this sounds like a pretty standard competition show. And you'd be right. A good mix of physical and mental challenges, some team aspects, a little bit of strategy involved, like with the case game and the flags determining when is the best time to strike. Is this show gonna get the Scott stamp of approval? Not so fast, bucko. The 4th and final challenge of the day is simple. Stand on these platforms. The first person that steps off will eliminate themselves as well as everybody else on their platform. And this is kind of where the wheels start to fall off. This is the type of challenge where people could theoretically be up there for hours. So as an incentive to get people to step down, Jimmy offers the contestants money, a bribe, if you will, and you must. So this challenge is just whether or not somebody can resist a monetary bribe. Eventually, somebody does give into the temptation of the golden carrot dangling in front of their face, albeit she does it before the timer actually starts, so she doesn't get the prize money.
I didn't start the timer yet. Oh my gosh. No, because the timer hadn't started yet.
She jumped the gun, got herself and everybody on her platform eliminated, and she went home empty-handed. I'm sure everybody on her platform was stoked about that. But this challenge, it put a really weird taste in my mouth. The show felt like it had promise leading up to this. We were actually trying something. You got a lot of people in here, 2,000 contestants, and they were competing. That's awesome. That's what you want in a competition show. It's in the name. But right at the very end, they brought everything to a screeching halt by introducing a bribe aspect. They made the challenge solely about money. And you might be thinking, like, what's the big deal? It's just a qualifier round, and there's an entire Amazon show full of challenges that comes after this, right? The entirety of Beast Games is hijacked by self-elimination and bribery. The whole thing. What, you don't believe me? Why? Let me walk you through each of the episodes and maybe you'll see what I'm talking about. After a very important message. I'm currently sitting in my office, and if you can watch this entire ad read without skipping, I'll give you a pretty good deal on socks. Thank you to Bombas for sponsoring this video. Bombas is a clothing company with a mission to help those in need. They donate the most requested items at homeless shelters, so for every item that you purchase, an item gets donated. Over 150 million essential clothing items have already been donated. What a number. I give that 2 thumbs up. Okay. They've got socks for every occasion. Running, hiking, dressing up, dressing down. They've got so many different styles to choose from. Short socks, long socks. These ones in particular, they're golf socks, and they lowered my handicap last summer. They also have t-shirts, bras, underwear, slippers, everything you need, really. And there's some great news for anybody outside of the US. Bombas is now offering international shipping, so over 200 countries that couldn't previously get Bombas, you're in for it now. That sounds like a threat. You're in for it now in a good way. New customers will get 20% off their first purchase. You just have to go to bombas.com/Scott Cramer and then use the code Scott Cramer at checkout. You're not going to regret it. And they also have a 100% happiness guarantee. So if you need a free exchange or a free return, they got you covered. Thank you so much to Bombas for sponsoring this video. And thank you to you guys as always for using my links when I have them. Helps me out a ton. Now let's dive back into the video. I am going to go over every single time the show asked people to leave via a bribe. It happens way more than you would think. Way more than it should. This is a competition show, right? The largest, most expensive, most insane competition show of all time, right?
This is the biggest TV show in history.
And the main challenge is just accepting or rejecting bribes. Yeah, okay, right, cool. In episode 1, literally the first thing that happens is a large-scale bribe. The show offers a pool of $1 million that'll be split evenly amongst anybody who chooses to leave the show right now.
Stay in the game.
Or press the button on your tablet and eliminate yourself.
Right off the bat, 52 people decide to leave. They take home about $19,000 each. Honestly, I consider them winners. The first people to go home, they beat the game. $20,000 for not doing anything. Yeah, you did a good job. The very next challenge, and I do mean the very next challenge, is asking people to leave on their own again. Except there is no cash involved this time. You just have to go home empty-handed. Everyone is lined up on these platforms, and one person in each row has to eliminate themselves before a 10-minute timer runs out. The last 3 rows that haven't had a sacrifice yet all get eliminated. This devolves into chaos immediately. People are shouting at each other, "You have to push your button! You have to take yourself out of the game to save me! Sacrifice yourself, or we all go home, you selfish jerk!" The irony, of course, is that those same people that are screaming at everyone else to sacrifice themselves, they could be the one to sacrifice. They could be the hero to save the team, but they don't do that. They look to somebody else to save them so they can stay in the game and keep playing. They shame their fellow competitors who didn't step down for the betterment of the team. You selfish loser. It's twisted and it shows how devilishly self-serving humans can be. And none of that is even acknowledged by the show. It could have been a really thought-provoking moment where they point out how hypocritical and entitled people are to expect someone else to step up and do the right thing when they themselves are not willing to do that. But no, the show just brushes past it, immediately moves on to the next thing. 30% of the players have already been eliminated by choice, and we haven't even played a single game yet. Beast Games! They do finally play a game right after that. They stack blocks. It's fine, but as soon as it's over, Jimmy gets back on the microphone right away, and he does the unthinkable. Seriously, it's so shocking there's no way you could guess what he does. What was that? You said that he bribes them to leave again? Oh. No, yeah, you guessed it.
What do you think I'm gonna be having you guys do?
It's gonna be a bribe.
A bribe.
The contestants have already caught on to this trend as well, I see. 100 plus people voluntarily go home in this round, and they accept a little bit of cash in exchange. Does this sound familiar? So over half of the original 1,000 people are already gone, and the first episode is not even done yet. It kind of feels like all this was them skipping the final step in the casting process and just bringing in everybody that wanted to be on the show, and then saying, look, we have the most contestants ever, even though they had no intention of these people actually playing the game. Look, we have a lot of contestants on the show. So as we move into episode 2, I'm actually pretty discouraged right now. I had pretty high hopes for this show that constantly boasts about its ridiculous scale at every chance they get.
$5 million, the largest grand prize in any show in history.
But so far there has been zero spectacle whatsoever. They have just been paying people to leave. Is this where that unlimited budget went?
We've already given away over $2 million, the most amount of money given away in the first episode of a show ever.
We are hit with yet another self-elimination challenge in episode 2. Jimmy literally says,
I know you guys aren't happy about another self-elimination challenge.
okay, then stop doing them. Bro, you have an unlimited budget. Have people fire cannons off of a pirate ship or something. Everybody splits into 2 teams, and the goal is for your team to have less people on it at the end of a timer. So people have to voluntarily just leave again. And the team that has more people voluntarily leave gets to stay in the game, and the other team is completely eliminated. The challenge is once again to just decide to go home. A little bit later, they play trivia, which is honestly more boring than anything else that's happened so far.
Biggest U.S. state by area.
Alaska.
Both got it correct.
Trivia just feels like a gargantuan waste of time to me. I am such a hater. I kind of miss the bribes, actually, Jimmy. I really wish that he would just offer people money to leave again. Hey, what's this?
Team that money can't buy. They will be tempted with an insane amount of money.
Oh, thank goodness. This episode ends with Jimmy grabbing 4 team captains and offering them an increasingly ridiculous amount of money to send their team home. The pot gets all the way up to $1 million, and not a single person takes it. What the hell is wrong with these people? I really need to talk through this because I've never seen something this foolish in all my days. These 4 people can push their button at any time and immediately be gifted $1 million. The grand prize for any other massive show on TV. You gotta run the gauntlet on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire to get that. You have to survive like a month on Survivor and go through all the challenges and win all the votes to get that money. And all these people need to do is push a button that's right in front of them. On top of that, the person who would push the button actually gets to stay in the game. Their whole team gets sent home, but they get to keep playing. None of them take that offer? Because what? It's more noble to like save your team? Ugh. Honestly, this is just more corny than anything.
You just turned down $1 million.
My integrity is not for sale to you.
Okay, cowboy, tone it down a little bit. They realize that the grand prize is only for one person, right? And the grand prize is $5 million. You could just take $1 million right now. You just got here. You already won. Nobody would even hold that against you. They'd be like, yeah, I suppose I would have done that. But they don't do it. And they made the wrong decision. You'll never convince me otherwise. I get maybe like wanting to stick it out and be noble if they were offering $50,000. Still an insane amount of money, but like maybe the experience itself is worth more to you than that. I understand that. But take the $1 million. You goofballs. Anyway, the first challenge in episode 3 sees contestants locked in a room in groups of 3, and they have to decide amongst themselves who goes home. Saying it out loud, I cannot. I wish I was joking. They're doing it again. The show is not even fucking trying, dude. Self-elimination. Round what? 10 already? Is it Groundhog Day? Am I living in Palm Springs? Also, we get to see one of those heroes that turned down $1 million for the good of the team get sent home here. He just voluntarily leaves. I hope it was worth it, buddy. Good job. Good for you, man. Episode 4 has an actual game in it. It almost feels illegal at this point. Everybody is blindfolded and they have to try to drop a ball when they think 10 minutes have passed. They're just kind of counting in their head. Now I see how this show has the biggest budget in game show history. It all makes sense. It's so clear. This is the type of thing you could only do with an unlimited budget. And after that challenge, thank goodness, they get right back to the good stuff. Having contestants voluntarily go home. Now this is where the show takes a very weird and unnecessary detour. It is a full 2-episode momentum killer about the island. They take 60 players to this island, and once you're there, you can either choose to compete and win the island, or you can just take a couple days and hang out at this resort instead. Totally voluntary. You don't have to do it if you don't want to, but let's go back a little bit. In order to even get to the island, contestants need to earn a spot on one of these helicopters, and to be fair, there are a couple of challenges involved in getting on the helicopter. Nothing that justifies an unlimited budget. I mean, mostly they're just standing around, like always, but 3 of the challenges in particular are as follows. Number 1, voluntarily give someone else your gold coin, and the person with the most gold coins gets to go to the island, and then they bring a couple of people with them. Number 2, voluntarily go home and split a $250,000 bribe with everyone else who also voluntarily goes home. And number 3, voluntarily give someone else your gold coin again, and the people with the most gold coins get to go to the island. Everybody else just goes home. Why would you give someone your gold coin? That's just you choosing to leave again. Oh, it's just fucking crazy, man. Genuinely, what are we doing? I'm being so earnest. I'm asking, what is this? Is this some kind of fetish? Like, is Jimmy and the production team, are they getting off on like having people go home by their own free will? That's how like 90% of people have been eliminated from this show so far. They're just leaving. They're like, oh, I'm gonna go home now. There has got to be a power high involved with the higher ups here. This is not a show. It's certainly not a competition. This is asking people to leave and then sometimes giving them a little bit of money on the way out. I sat through all of this. Every episode. I took almost 30 pages of detailed notes. And for what? This is nothing. This is not a show. Episode 5 takes place entirely on the island. 9 contestants have decided to compete for this thing, while the 51 others just are taking a few days vacation, I guess. They just dink around at this resort. Alright. The first challenge for those competing is to play hide and seek with these Navy SEALs, which they have done on Jimmy's YouTube channel before as well. One person gets eliminated during this, and then another gets eliminated during this coconut toss game, which, wow, an actual game? I don't even know what to say. Bravo! Congratulations! The congratulations is short-lived though, because literally the next challenge is just a choice between volunteering to leave the island or risking getting voted off by those that are just hanging out at the resort. I can't even... This is actually insane, right? It's insane how much of this show is just people leaving on their own. I'm not being dramatic with how much this bothers me, right? You guys, I was so excited when I saw the next challenge.
Have any of you ever been on a pirate ship? No! Welcome to the pirate ship! So, there are 4 of you, and if you look right here, you will see real cannons that you will be firing at each other's ships.
Have people fire cannons off of a pirate ship or something.
If your ship gets sunk, you will be eliminated.
They're actually gonna do it. They're gonna let them fire cannons off a pirate ship? It's gonna be a real challenge, not just a bribe. They might even bring a tear to my eye.
Before we start firing, I have an offer.
No.
Follow me to the treasure chest. Inside of this treasure chest is $450,000 of gold.
To bribe somebody to leave.
I'm taking the money.
You're taking it? You're taking it, 450 grand?
They didn't even fire the cannons. They offered a bribe instead. They offered a bribe in lieu of firing the cannons. I don't say this lightly. This show is one of the worst things I've ever watched. I wanted to give it some grace. I wanted it to be fine. I don't like being negative about stuff like this, but this is unacceptable. They're all on the boat already. The cannons are set up and primed to be fired. Just don't offer a fucking bribe. Have them fire the cannons. Have them do an actual challenge For once, have them compete in something. This is the biggest slap in the face to the audience of any competition show I've ever seen. It's so insulting to everybody involved. This bribe crap. They bring out the cannons. They bribe them instead, and then they don't do the challenge at all. They just move on. Not having the people who didn't take the bribe still do the challenge is despicable. I try to be as positive as I can about stuff. I don't want to put anything down like this. What is this garbage? This show is a complete and total waste of time. They should be ashamed that they made this. This pisses me off. This show has broken me. Who in their right mind thought that this was okay to do? There are still 5 episodes left, and I don't even want to talk about them. I have so many notes. I color-coded them. This took so long, and I'm over it. I'm over it. There are 3 more major instances of Jimmy bribing people with money in the remaining episodes. And to be fair, the rest of the show, besides those 3 major instances, is mostly filled with actual challenges. There's some physical stuff, they've got mental games. At least one is a completely random elimination, but okay. But even with the few actual challenges that they do, a handful of them are just reused ideas or things that other shows have already done, even stuff that Jimmy has already done on the Mr. Beast YouTube channel. And there's this whole episode dedicated to the trolley problem, you know, the one where you have to decide which train track the train goes barreling down. And it wasn't even interesting. The way they set it up was all wrong. I don't want to spend a lot of time explaining it, but they made basically every decision in this very obvious. Like, the choices were clear which one they were gonna do. There was never any dilemma involved. By the time we get to episode 8, there's only 10 contestants left. Thank goodness we started with 1,000, and then we asked 990 of them to just leave on their own, because now the real show can start. Who would have thought that the way to make a show interesting is to have less people involved and be able to actually connect with the contestants on screen and spend some time with them, get to know them? Shocking. And again, to be fair, the last few episodes are not that bad. They were the best of the bunch, but it took like 6 hours of runtime for us to get to a spot that's not that bad. Throughout the entirety of Beast Games, there were a total of 3 moments that made me feel something other than boredom or rage. 3 moments that made me feel positive emotions. That is rough, but I'd like to tell you about those 3 moments now. One of them was when this guy Gage took an offer to do a coin toss. If you called the flip correctly, it would double the prize money from 5 million to 10 million. And if you called it wrong, he would be eliminated. This, like basically everything else in the show, was completely voluntary. Nobody had to do this. He stepped up and went Insano style and flipped that coin. Made it this far in the game just to chance it on a coin toss. For why? I don't know. But the entire lead up to this point, the scene itself, the editing surrounding him coming to the decision to flip the coin, the music buildup, the montages, all of it was awesome. And then he flipped the coin and he actually got it right. He doubled the prize money. It was a big moment, but it was a tiny moment at the same time. The ramifications of this coin toss were really big, but in the grand scheme of the show, this was a small moment. And it's one of the few that actually stuck with me. The second time I actually felt something while watching the show was when this contestant, Jeff, talked about his reasons for being on the show in the first place. One of his 2 sons, Lucas, has a brain disease that's so rare it really hasn't even been studied yet. And he said that if he wins, he wants to use the prize money to fund research so they can find a cure for this rare disease. And I was already getting choked up just watching him explain that. I have 2 sons of my own, so this hits really close to home for a bunch of reasons. But then, Jeff actually wins the show in the most genuinely astonishing way. And as he's there celebrating, his wife and his other son come running out to celebrate with him, and his wife says to him with so much hope in her voice,
"You're gonna find Lucas the cure."
I wept like a baby while I was watching this. I was downstairs by myself. It was like, I don't know, midnight. I'm trying to knock this thing out, just get it over with, and I'm down there crying on the couch. That moment is something that I am not going to forget. But the third and final thing in this show that made me feel something is one of the most notable things I've ever seen on TV. There was a sort of psychological game that happened in episode 8 when there were 10 contestants left. There was this big $1 million stack of cash out in the court courtyard, and one by one, contestants could come out and take however however much of this pile of money that they wanted. They could take $0, they could take the full million if it was still there. Going into this, there was kind of an unspoken agreement among all of them that the right thing to do is to just split it up evenly, $100,000 for each person. The first woman came out and she did exactly that. She took 1/10 of the prize, $100,000. The second guy came out and he did not do that. For some reason that we may never know, he took $223,000, more than his fair share. A greedy little snake, and it throws everything off for everybody after him now. Because if they continue on the path and they go 100,000, 100,000, somebody is gonna not get anything. When the third guy comes out of his house and he sees that somebody has already broken the pattern, he completely gives in to the temptation, and he takes an insane $650,000 from the pile. That leaves only $27,000 for the remaining 7 contestants after him to share. So insanely selfish, but on a show like this where it's all about money, can you really blame him? At least that's what he tells himself at first, but as he's watching the crew load his money into these duffel bags for him, it really starts to set in. He has gotten to know these other contestants on a deeply personal level over the past few weeks. They've been through so much together: psychological warfare, backstabbing, the epic highs and lows of high school football, dude. The girl who was supposed to take her turn directly after him was someone he looked at as a daughter figure. They were a pair from the very beginning. He promised her that he would look out for her and protect her in this game. But then he stood there and he saw this big pile of money, and he couldn't help himself. The alliances, the friendships, everything that he had built with these other contestants this entire time, out the window. And as he sits on his bed in an empty room, all alone, surrounded by nothing but these duffel bags full of money that he took from the others, he is haunted by his decision. Not because it was the wrong thing to do. Who can really say what's right and wrong in a scenario like this? Maybe it really is just everybody for themselves. What he's haunted by is the realization that he betrayed his friends, and in doing so, revealed to himself what he's capable of. He is the type of person he hoped that he wasn't. It is such a powerful shot. It is one of the most provocative moments in any TV show that I have ever seen. I get chills watching it, man. I would legitimately and unironically say that these few minutes of TV are a masterclass in storytelling. It almost made the entire show worth it. Almost. It is so abundantly clear that this project was spearheaded by a guy who makes YouTube videos about teasing people with money.
I will die for this. I will die for $5 million.
Every episode is just, you can either stay or you can leave. And sometimes we'll give you cash to leave. You can stay, but don't you want to leave? We'll give you money if you don't stay. This world record breaking cash prize and the massive contestant number, it means nothing towards the entertainment value of the show.
This is the largest grand prize of any show in history.
The money to a viewer isn't even real. It's just a graphic that pops up on the screen sometimes. So why should we care if it's $5 million or $5? It's the same show to us. Everything on the show is exaggerated. Everything is hyperbole.
This has got to be the most insane challenge we have ever done.
And that completely ruins the weight of the few things that actually are impressive on this show.
When everyone's super, no one will be.
This next game might be the most cutthroat thing I've ever done.
Literally one of the most cutthroat and borderline evil things I've ever done.
The most cutthroat challenge yet.
The exaggerating that they do is like the equivalent of a laugh track on a sitcom telling you when something funny happened, because they're like, oh, look at this cool thing. Look at the most cutthroat challenge ever. Dude, if it's cool, we'll know. Firing those cannons on the pirate ship might have been cool. Too bad you didn't let them do that.
They'll also be firing cannons on real pirate ships.
That was a lie.
This did not need to be on Amazon with an unlimited budget. At all. It could have been a few regular YouTube videos like they always make, and it could have been half as many episodes with 1/10 the number of contestants. But you know, then they wouldn't have been able to boast about it being a world record breaking thing, right?
One of them will become the champion winner of the largest real cash grand prize in the history of entertainment.
And that's clearly what this was about all along. It's such a shame. And if they didn't constantly remind us about how expensive this show was to make, about how grand their prizes were, it might not have been that frustrating.
I've spent over $15 million literally building a city from scratch.
Was Beast Games any better than all of the shows it took inspiration from? I think no.
Every single episode of that show is bigger than the biggest YouTube video I have ever done.
They were not. That's not true. Most of the show is unfortunately pretty underwhelming. The Marble Olympics is 1 billion times more engaging than that, and they have like no budget to do that. This was an incredible logistical feat to pull off, okay? Don't get me wrong on that. Having this many people do anything that's even remotely organized is impressive. But I just know that the goal was always to get on some Wikipedia list of the most expensive game show ever made, or the biggest cash prize ever given out, the most money given out in TV history.
I want to break the world record for most views in 24 hours on Amazon Prime Video.
So no, it isn't a psychotic, unhinged, dystopian hellscape. It's something so much worse than that. It's forgettable. So there you go, guys. I hope you appreciate the suffering that I had to go through in order to relay that information to you. Thank you so much for watching this video. An extra thank you to those listed here. They are my patrons and they are the top patrons on there. You guys, we're gonna get together one day and we're gonna fire some cannons. We have to. We have to right the wrongs that have been done. All right, that's all I got for you. I appreciate you guys. Thanks again for watching. I will talk to you again very soon. Goodbye.